Welcome to the Brimful Podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Tessman, a mother of two, an international board-certified lactation consultant, childbirth educator, and former doula and early childhood educator. I've spent 20 years supporting families, and I'm here to share insights, tips, and stories about childbirth and infant feeding. Whether you're expecting your first baby, navigating infant feeding, or you're a perinatal professional adding to your skills and knowledge, this podcast is your trusted resource for expert, evidence-based advice and heartfelt conversations, empowering you with the knowledge and confidence to nurture your growing family. Be sure to follow me on social media at brim.familycare or connect with me at my website at brimfamilycare.com. Let's get started. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for the inaugural episode. I thought I'd start our first episode off with talking about the nervous system, which is something that's talked about a lot during the perinatal period and thrown around like a bit of a buzzword. We know that it controls everything our body does. We know how we feel when it's activated, but what exactly is the nervous system and how does it impact our perinatal period or our journey through becoming parents? So we're going to look into the science of what exactly your nervous system is, how it works in the perinatal period, and the changes you might experience. And we'll also explore the impacts of negative experiences to your nervous system. We're going to talk about neurodivergent differences and supporting yourself through any challenges that might come up for you. And to end the episode, we are going to finish off with talking about co-regulating your nervous system with your baby's nervous system. So let's do this. So what is this nervous system thing that everybody keeps talking about, and what do you do with it? So the nervous system is split into two parts: the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which is all the rest of the nerves that spread throughout the body, which lead from the spine. So within that peripheral system, so the system of the nerves that lead from the spine to the rest of the body, in that system we have two key players: the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. With the sympathetic nervous system, we are kicked into gear to either fight or flight. So if you run into a bear while you're hiking in the woods, this is going to be the system that helps you either fight or run away. Gets your adrenaline flowing, quickens your heart rate and your breathing, directs blood flow to all your muscles so that you have lots of power to do what you need to do. And then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which basically helps us unwind and recharge. It's our rest and digest mode. So it slows our heart rate. It sends blood flow back to your digestive system so that you can digest your food, and it conserves your energy for the everyday functions within the body. So it's like a fine-tuned motor. And with the sympathetic nervous system, works in balance to keep your body functioning properly. So one kicks in when the fight or flight response is over, the other kicks in to calm you down. So I'm sure you can imagine that if you're stuck in that fight or flight response for a really long time, it can be damaging to your overall health. So if you've had a traumatic experience or a really stressful experience and your body is having this hard time coming down from it, your heart rate is always going to be high, which can affect your blood pressure. Your adrenaline is always going to be pumping through your body, and this becomes really unhealthy. And so sometimes we need a little bit of extra help to get back to that parasympathetic nervous system state to calm us down and get us back to that regular healthy functioning that our body does. And so we're going to talk a little bit later about how you can support yourself in doing that. So if you know me, you know that I love nerding out about sciencey stuff, and so I'm really excited to share this next part about how pregnancy affects the brain, which again is the main piece of our nervous system. Stay tuned, it's wild. So, there are some studies that show that hormonal changes, inflammation, lack of sleep, and stress can all impact brain structure and function. And I'm going to link those studies in the show notes. And so, not just during pregnancy, but in everyday life, these sorts of things affect the brain and how you feel and how you function. And so, combine these physiological aspects of pregnancy and the psychosocial factors of the demands of everyday life, along with the demands of caring for a baby, and you have a recipe for significant changes in the brain during the peripartum period, which is the time surrounding childbirth. So, pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period. There's some really cool recent neuroimaging studies, and they've given us a closer look at the changes that actually happen during pregnancy. In both rodents and humans, researchers have observed reductions in brain volume during pregnancy, with the most significant decrease occurring near full term, which is 37 to 40 weeks gestation for us humans. So yes, there is actual science behind the baby brain. What's amazing is that by about 24 weeks after giving birth, the brain typically returns to its pre-pregnancy size. So not only your uterus is shrinking back to its normal size, your brain grows back to its normal size. Crazy changes going on all in a very short amount of time. And here's something just absolutely bonkers about the pituitary gland, which is a critical player within our nervous system. It's a gland at the base of the brain that is responsible for producing pregnancy and lactation hormones, among others. So during pregnancy, it goes through major structural changes. It enlarges 2 to 3 times its size to meet the body's hormonal needs during this time. By about 8 months postpartum, your pituitary gland is back to its normal size. So lots of growing and shrinking within the body during pregnancy and postpartum. And here's more. Studies also suggest that pregnant people may become more reactive to emotional stimuli, particularly in the third trimester. I'm not sure why we needed a study for that, but it's like our nervous system is on high alert, tuning in more sensitively to threats or emotional cues during pregnancy. So pregnancy isn't just about the physical changes that you can see on the outside. There's major changes happening for our brains and our nervous systems too. So stay tuned as we explore how these huge changes in perinatal neurobiology manifest in our own experiences and discover ways of supporting yourself through it all. So, as we explore how pregnancy affects our nervous system, let's dive into how these changes show up in our day-to-day lives as expecting or new parents. You might be wondering about those brain changes, that reduction of size during pregnancy. It sounds scary, right? But it turns out it's all just a part of the brain's natural adaptation to your pregnancy. It's protecting itself. So instead of seeing it as a decline, think of it as a smart shift. Our brains are focusing on what matters most during this time, like bonding with our baby, managing emotions, and gearing up for the challenges of parenthood. It's amazing how our brains essentially reorganize to support us through it all. And what about feeling more emotionally sensitive, especially in that third trimester? It's like our nervous system is on high alert, picking up on every little emotion. This heightened reactivity is our body's way of preparing us for the big changes ahead. It can definitely be intense and unwanted, but it shows how delicate and deeply connected our emotional and physical experiences are during pregnancy. I like to imagine our primitive ancestors getting into these slower brain waves and attuning to their surroundings in order to find a safe place to birth their babies away from the threat of predators. Now, back to that pituitary gland. It's a superstar during pregnancy. It's not just growing in size to handle all those hormones, it's also influencing our mood, our energy levels, and overall well-being throughout pregnancy and beyond, preparing your body for birth and lactation. So understanding all of these neurobiological changes can help us navigate this time in life with more awareness and resilience. Now that we understand how pregnancy rewires our brains and amplifies our emotional responses, what about how it works for birth? Let's talk about how the nervous system gets things rolling and keeps them going during labor and birth. So picture this. Nearing the end of pregnancy, your baby's getting cozy and growing bigger. Meanwhile, stretch receptors in your uterus are like little messengers. They're sending up signals through your nervous system to your brain saying, hey, we're ready for this labor thing. And at the same time, hormones like oxytocin and prostaglandins are revving up. Oxytocin, which is the star of the show, starts those rhythmic contractions that are so essential for labor. So before any of that can happen, we have to make sure that our nervous system is in this rest and digest state. Because as we know about that sympathetic nervous system getting us amped up for action, that hormonal response that's happening during that state is not conducive to allowing labor to begin. So we really need to focus on creating an environment where we feel really calm and safe emotionally and physically so that we can actually allow the oxytocin to flow and allow those receptors to do their signaling and do the dance that starts off labor. So now you're in labor, and throughout labor, your sympathetic nervous system gears up to handle the physical demands, like increasing your heart rate and directing blood flow to where it's needed most, which is usually the uterus. Meanwhile, your parasympathetic system steps in to keep you calm between contractions, conserving your energy and promoting a sense of relaxation. Amazing, right? Emotionally, your nervous system is tuned into everything too. So a supportive environment, positive vibes, and having a trusted birth partner or doula can really make a difference. They help reduce stress, boost those good hormones, and keep everything moving smoothly. And all of those deep breathing techniques that you learned in your childbirth class are going to signal to your brain and your body that you are safe. So using deep breathing during labor can also be a really great tool to reduce stress and keep things moving. Once labor starts, the nervous system doesn't clock out. It's on full alert, coordinating those contractions like a symphony conductor. Oxytocin keeps flowing, creating this feedback loop where contractions get stronger and labor progresses. And let's talk about pain. Labor definitely comes with sensations, and your nervous system's picking up on signals from your uterus and your cervix, interpreting them as pain. But here's the cool part. The brain also releases endorphins, those natural feel-good chemicals. They help take the edge off, and if you're lucky, can even give you that birth high feeling. So knowing how your nervous system plays this role in childbirth can really show us the importance of nurturing a calm environment and a deep feeling of safety in order for things to progress. Like I mentioned before about the primitive ancestors, they really tapped into finding those feelings of calm and safety so they could instinctually nurture their nervous system in a positive way, allowing the hormones of labor to flow. So it's not just about biology, it's about how you can work with your body and your amazing nervous system. Okay, so now let's talk about some common challenges that show up for us during our perinatal period and how we can support ourselves through them while also co-regulating with our babies. Co-regulating with our baby is essentially tuning into their cues and responding appropriately, and I'm going to talk more about that later. So one common challenge that is talked about a lot and something that causes a lot of parents to have some anxiety about is sleep, or the lack thereof. It's a big one, and we all know how precious sleep becomes during pregnancy and after birth. It's not just feeling tired, it's actual sleep deprivation, and it can impact our brain function and emotional well-being to a great extent. When we are sleep deprived, we are in a state of surviving instead of thriving. Finding ways to prioritize rest, whether through naps during the day or support from a partner at night, can make a world of difference. Co-regulating with our baby's sleep patterns and learning their cues can also help us synchronize and maximize our rest. Now, if your goal is to exclusively breast or chest feed, you don't have to choose between feeding and sleep. You can do both with some really good planning and being diligent with routines, like going to bed a couple hours earlier than you normally do. This can really help you get more sleep overall throughout the night, even with night wakings. Next is stress management, and this is crucial in pregnancy because not only do we have a heightened awareness of our environment and our emotional stimuli, and although pregnancy can be beautiful, it can also bring worries about our health, the birth process, and life changes that come after you have baby. It's a big transition in our lives, and our nervous systems are already on high alert. So, finding ways to relax, like meditation, really, this can be just as simple as sitting and focusing on our breath for a few minutes. Gentle exercise like stretching or yoga or a walk around the block, or just simply taking moments for yourself with a book, time in your garden, spending time at the beach. All of these help our nervous system stay balanced and keep our minds clear. And then co-regulating with our baby's cues for comfort and security can also enhance our own stress resilience. And again, I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. And nutrition is key for our brains and bodies, especially during pregnancy and breastfeeding. During your last trimester of pregnancy, you'll need about 300 extra calories per day. And while you are lactating, you actually need an extra 500 calories per day. So a balanced, nutrient-dense diet and hydration supports physical health and our brain's ability to adapt. Getting enough calories and hydration is also important for milk production. So by taking care of your own nutritional needs, you're also taking care of your baby's nutritional needs. Now let's talk about finding community. Connection with supportive friends, family, or other new parents gives us emotional support and reassurance. Sharing experiences and seeking advice lightens the emotional load and helps us to feel less alone in our experiences. Seeking community will prevent you from feeling too isolated and can reduce the risk of mental health challenges. So I really recommend that you do some research ahead of time to find out which postpartum groups are available in your community and which ones you might like to go to. Your care provider will likely have a list of the ones local to you. And finally, neurodivergence can really significantly impact the nervous system and the transition to parenthood in various ways, depending on the specific neurotype. As someone who was recently identified as neurodivergent, this one is of particular interest to me as I navigate how to better care for myself as well. So let's talk about some common types of neurodivergence and how they might present in the transition to parenthood, along with some strategies for some support. So first is the autism spectrum. This neurotype is often referred to as a hyperconnected brain. So what happens for neurotypical people is that in early childhood, they go through a bit of a brain pruning. So their neurons are pruned back to a manageable level. And for autistic people, this doesn't happen, or it happens to a lesser degree. So autistic people tend to have a much more heightened sensitivity to their environment. The nervous system is easily activated into that fight or flight response. It presents with differences in sensory sensitivities and social communication, challenges with changes in routine, and difficulty processing emotions. Needless to say, this can make the demands of parenthood really overwhelming. What often helps autistic parents cope in this stage is establishing predictable routines, creating sensory-friendly environments, seeking parenting resources specifically tailored for autistic parents, and working with knowledgeable, neurodivergent affirming healthcare workers, therapists, and lactation consultants to help you find ways of adapting to your needs during this time. Another common neurodivergence is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Folks with ADHD have differences in impulsivity, distractibility, and difficulty with time management, making it challenging to juggle the demands of parenting. Some helpful support tools I suggest are using organizational tools and strategies like phone reminders or alarms, or one that I just heard about that's called Stop think, do, which is essentially stopping yourself from, let's say, walking out the door to get groceries and thinking about what you need first, like bags, keys, purse, etc. Then you can leave to do the thing. This ideally leaves you feeling a little bit less scattered and disorganized. Then there's breaking tasks into manageable steps, taking breaks in between for a little reward, and finally seeking support from partners or family members. And there's medications also that are generally safe to take while pregnant and breast or chest feeding, and you'll work with your care provider to manage which ones and the dosage. Another neurotype that requires extra care during the perinatal period is dyslexia and other similar learning differences. These folks often experience difficulties with reading, writing, and organization, making it difficult to absorb information when they're learning about childbirth, lactation, postpartum wellness, infant care, etc. So using assistive technologies for reading and organization, like visual tools or audiobooks and podcasts, seeking help from a care provider or lactation consultant who's versed in neurodivergence for help in establishing systems for you. This can really be beneficial in helping you feel confident and capable as a parent. Now, back to the concept of co-regulating with our babies. Co-regulation is how we tune into our baby's cues and responses. It fosters a positive bond and supports their growth and development. We now know that during pregnancy, our nervous systems are already attuned to our baby's needs. After birth, this continues as we learn to recognize their cues for comfort, hunger, and sleep. Co-regulation means we are responding sensitively to these cues, which helps infants feel secure and builds trust in their caregivers. One way to co-regulate is through responsive feeding. Babies have their own rhythms and signals for hunger and fullness, and by tuning into these cues and responding promptly, we not only nourish them physically, but also nourish a sense of security and trust, especially if they are bottle fed, that we hold them when they feed. I think it's also important to mention that breastfeeding and suckling is not always about hunger and thirst. It's soothing and comforting and ultimately nurturing to their well-being. So offering the breast or chest can be the answer to almost everything. Which brings me to my next point of soothing and comfort. Babies rely on us to help regulate their emotions and calm them when they're distressed. They are so in tune with us and seek to be regulated by us that if we are able to regulate our own nervous system, it can be very effective in helping them do the same, calming the whole household down. This might involve slow breathing, a gentle touch, rocking, or comforting sounds like shushing, or humming, or singing. All of these signal safety and reassurance to our little ones. As babies grow, co-regulation evolves into interactive play and communication. Responding to their babbles and smiles strengthens our bond and supports their social and cognitive development. It's a beautiful dance where we learn from each other and grow together. So understanding the principles of co-regulation really empowers us as parents to navigate the ups and downs of early parenthood with confidence and empathy. Now, what if there are negative impacts like birth trauma or other previous negative events like loss of a loved one or a big life change? These experiences can disrupt our nervous system's balance, placing us in a prolonged state of fight or flight in that sympathetic nervous system activation, and affect our ability to respond sensitively to our baby's cues. This has big impacts on our health and well-being and can lead to sleep disturbances, lack of appetite, feelings of fear, anxiety, or even post-traumatic stress disorder, making it challenging to connect with our baby during those early days. The stress hormone called cortisol, that is released during times of high stress or trauma, can also disrupt the production of lactation hormones, making it difficult to build and maintain a robust milk supply. Managing these challenges requires deep, compassionate care and proactive strategies. Seeking support from healthcare professionals or therapists trained in perinatal mental health can provide valuable resources and guidance, and I will link some resources in the show notes. Processing your birth experience and developing some coping mechanisms for stress are really essential steps towards your healing and creating a nurturing environment for you and your baby. I often help folks process their birth experience when I see them for lactation help, because helping you find a parasympathetic nervous system state is what's going to help you feed your baby and have less stress around it and feel good about your parenting. And then additional factors like sleep deprivation can make these challenges worse. Lack of sleep not only impacts our own cognitive function and emotional stability, but it can also hinder our ability to attune to our baby's needs. I mentioned that survival mode, right? When you're just surviving, it's so hard to be well enough to care for your baby. So treating your stress or trauma while establishing a good sleep routine and getting help from partners or family members or a postpartum doula can really help alleviate the effects of sleep deprivation. And I really, really recommend planning for this. So talk with your partner about who you want in your home for support, who you're comfortable with, where is the baby going to sleep. I recommend your baby sleeps in the same room as you. This doesn't mean that you need to co-sleep, but rooming in is going to make things a lot easier. It's way less disruptive in the middle of the night when you're not having to leave your bedroom to go into a new room and turn on lights to feed your baby and whatnot. So have a chat with your partner, plan your sleep arrangements, and you'll be so happy you did. Now, if things go beyond some sleep deprivation and some regular normal feelings of baby blues, sometimes what can happen is postpartum depression or anxiety creep in. This is when your mood doesn't get better after about 2 weeks. Things continue on and you're still feeling blues, or you're having anxiety or intrusive thoughts that are really disrupting your ability to function throughout the day. And these can further complicate our ability to co-regulate with our baby. So it's really important to prioritize self-care and seek out some professional support if you're experiencing some of these symptoms. The treatments available could include therapy or medication or support groups tailored to perinatal mental health. And finally, substance use disorder during pregnancy or postpartum can negatively affect both our nervous system and our baby's development. So seeking non-judgmental help and support for substance use disorder is extremely valuable for ensuring a safe and nurturing environment for you and your baby's growth. So speak to your care provider if you're struggling with addiction so you can get the help you need and deserve. So navigating all these various challenges requires understanding, resilience, and a supportive network. By addressing these factors and prioritizing our own mental and physical health, we enhance our ability to support our own nervous system, reduce time spent in the sympathetic nervous system state or fight or flight, co-regulate with our baby, and foster a positive environment for their well-being. If you need extra support during your pregnancy or postpartum, please reach out to your care provider or find a trusted friend or family member to help you navigate the steps needed to find support for your health and well-being. And of course, as your childbirth educator and lactation consultant, I'm also equipped with some resources to refer you to, so please reach out and ask me for those if that's something that you need. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found this episode helpful and interesting, and if you did, please rate the show and stay tuned for our August episode celebrating World Breastfeeding Week. We'll talk about the process of lactation and what to expect during those first few tender weeks of newborn land. See you next time.